but they need people like him to reinforce that is
Yeah,
kind of what I'm
100%.
saying. But
Yeah,
like what's really interesting, and I don't know if you guys know much, like in the really early history of rap music. Do you know about like African Bambaataa and the Zulu
dude.
Nation?
So I've done a ton of work with Bombada. I actually helped move his record collection into Cornell University.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I know.
Well,
Uh,
dude, do you know like the accusations about
oh
him,
yeah,
dude?
100%. That all.
Like
I
like
was pretty,
hardcore,
dude. That
like
was like the first.
pedophile, like
That shit. That
trafficking.
shit like really messed me up when it came out because I am not kidding you. I was handling the man's estate, like moving it
That's
into Cornell, and nobody
it's really
nobody
crazy,
fucking knew
dude.
about it, dude. Like he,
Well, it sounds like a lot of people like in the scene knew about it though.
yeah, but to a degree, but it was a small group that knew
Yeah.
about it. It was
Well,
a small group.
what's really crazy, so like if I said like Nubian Nation that he was involved with, do you know about the Nubians?
Yeah, dude. And
And and
that's.
and
Do you know about Ramel Z, the graffiti artist with them that did all the
no.
like? Yeah. So look up. Let me put it in the chat.
Yeah.
There's this graffiti artist that's associated with Bombada that's really cool, but he gets into black futurism with samurai shit.
Okay, so that's a big part of all of this stuff.
Yeah,
Like the
that's
black
what I'm saying.
futurism, like the Moorish science stuff, the like the Yakub like narrative. But you know about Yakub, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, okay, guys. Yeah, Yakub. This actually goes into the Nation of Islam origin story, and just like all these cults, it's all DARPA, it's all MK Ultra, like Scientology, straight up DARPA too, and they've got patents for some insane kind of mind control devices. You might want to get into that, but let's
Nation
hold
of
on, let's
Islam.
focus on Yakub. This is some shit right
Oh,
here.
well,
This is
Hold
some
on.
Nation
shit.
of
No, no,
Islam
no. This
like merged with Scientology officially in 2011.
Wait,
Do you
Nation of
know that
Islam?
like
Wait, what?
merged with
Are
Scientology?
you?
Farrakhan sells diamonds. Farrakhan, I'm not joking. Look it up, dude. Like 15 years ago.
Okay, so why this is okay, guys? So some people might not
Not joking,
recognize.
dude.
No, no, I'm gonna clip this and put this on YouTube. But some people might not recognize who Yakub is. Okay, Yakub. He is the creator of the white devil race. White people came from Yakub. So Yakub, he was this very intelligent descendant of royalty, but he couldn't inherit his kingdom because his heart was evil. So he had a cultic book of trigonometry, and from trigonometry he learned how to tricknology. Yeah. From tricknology he learned how to use magnetics and eugenics to create white people, and he used white people to take over the world. It's like
So no, but this is a huge part of the lore of the Nubian nation, and the Nubian nation was led by this guy Malachi Z. York, right? And they started in Brooklyn, and they
Yeah, dude.
moved down to Georgia, and they moved down to this like compound, like in between. It's like it's near Athens, Georgia, which is a whole other MK scene in the '80s with REM and the B-52s and blah blah. Doesn't matter. But they moved to this compound and they built pyramids and sphinxes, and it was all being funded by Wesley Snipes. And they had like, dude, in the Nubian circles, it was like Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest. The
Tribe. Yeah.
Outcast was like
Uh,
huge with the
Basquiat.
Nubians.
Basquiat.
Basquiat, Erica Badu,
Yep.
Dougie Fresh, and
Oh, what's the
Africa
other chick?
Bambaataa.
Jennifer. No, who's the other rapper chick that was from the
Hudson.
night? Yeah, Jennifer Hudson.
So here's the thing. They had this whole crazy compound down there. Well, dude, they got busted in 2004. Malachi Z. York got charged and convicted on 134 counts of child trafficking. And all of these rappers, like Outkast and all of them, they were totally involved.
wait,
Like
no,
they
yeah,
like
this is something hardly anyone
yes,
talks about either. Also, it's like people are
this
talking about
is this is
yeah.
huge. It was the biggest conviction of child trafficking crimes in history. 134 counts. Malachi Z. York, and this guy was like pushing Yakub, like, and all of this crazy stuff. And he had this gigantic cult center in Georgia that was like, I don't know, 20, 30 miles away from the Georgia Guidestones, in the next county over from the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah, no, guys,
Right.
all these cults.
It's insane.
I just want to say is for the like all these cults. There's more to them than meets the eyes. Like they have Masonic structures where it's like, oh, you help me, we'll help you when it comes to business, and they'll even have like peer pressure type extortion where, hey, you wanna become prominent in our area you just moved into, join our cult or else your business isn't going to go anywhere. But like so what this does is it creates a culture of fear and intimidation, and that can create cover for massive human traffic operations. Every single one of these cults are involved with human trafficking. Maybe small ones. If there's an exception, it's going to be a small one that's like Uncle Jim's Baptist cult that only has like 100 people. Like all the major cults are involved with human trafficking, and there's if you start digging into them, you can find case after case. But like the one Habsburg Jolly West just shared, it's like this might have been mainstream news for a bit, but people weren't talking about it like with Diddy. So like a lot of this
nobody
stuff,
knows about it. Nobody knows.
Yeah,
about
a lot of this just gets buried.
No, a lot of that Georgia stuff got retroactively memory hold by the music industry because the record labels still needed to sell tribe stuff. Like,
I mean, it was too big. Like, you know, these are like, this is the big, you know, like,
I put some
they have a Nubian fez in the Smithsonian collection that was donated by Africa Bambaataa, and it's like a straight up Masonic Shriners fez.
Hilarious.
It says Nubian Nation. It's in the Smithsonian's collection still
in the
to
video,
this day.
I put some Rammel-Z photos in the replies if you guys want to look, because he's a part of this, but he's like the visual artist side. You got to keep in mind the elements of hip hop. You have the beats, you have the rhymes, you have graffiti, and you have the breakdance, and that's the 4 elements of hip hop, right? And so every scene has a graffiti artist that's attached to it. So Rammel-Z was the artist that was to some degree Basquiat, but Rammel-Z was the big one that was attached to African Bambaataa.
Yeah,
I mean, I
recognize this.
Yeah, you see it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I got to look at a little bit about who this guy is, but I mean, Africa Bambaataa. Here's another connection. Is like, I mean, he was like, you know, like he was the crossover between George Clinton and hip hop.
Correct.
He is like,
correct.
You know, yeah. I mean, he was like,
he was the first.
George Clinton.
African Bambaataa was the first producer to make a hip hop beat that didn't use a sample, meaning that he actually used synthesizers to compose all of it. So it was the first time anybody ever did that. Prior to Bambaataa, I think that was in 1989. But prior to that, all hip hop beats were using pre-recorded samples.
Totally. And a lot of them are like George Clinton and P-Funk. And George Clinton was Process Church of the Final Judgment. He wrote about it in like his album liner notes, like about the Process Church. You know, like America eats its own was like dedicated to the Process Church of the Final Judgment. You know,
I think I have.
Okay, can you hold on? I think this Process Church thing is a pretty big deal. I've looked into it a little bit, but I can't give a really solid hit. So would you mind just giving a basic history, and also because I think it's also illustrative, because these cults to me seem like actually kind of middlemen in externalizing the hierarchy. It's like it goes from secret societies to becomes an accepted cult doctrine, but then with ecumenism, where we're all worshiping the same God. Well, those cults will be integrated into that also, and it's like all of them are going to have the same kind of machinery under the ones. So Vatican II hasn't been codified, but Vatican II essentially set the stages for all the religions to merge. So you can expect whatever is coming down the pipeline from that to have all these characteristics. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind going on the Process Church, I think that could be a really instructive example.
It's a really big deal, and it's like it's so expansive, and it's so like hard to actually talk about. But briefly, like I'll really try to be brief. It was Robert de Grimston and Marianne de Grimston, this couple. They were Scientologists in London in 1962, and they like split off from the Scientologists, and they started the Process Church of the Final Judgment. They actually came to New Orleans, which, like, you know, this is like concurrent with like Lee Harvey Oswald and the like Guy Bannister and Clay Shaw networks, with the Kennedy assassination, David Ferry, like they were in New Orleans starting. They took an e-meter from the Scientology headquarters in London and brought it to the United States, to New Orleans, and started this like spin-off, and they called the e-meter a P-scope for process. And you guys know what the e-meters are, like these like tin cans that they hold when they're doing the auditing in Scientology, and they give like an electrical volt that's like, it's like kind of like what's the lie detector test called? The anyways, that's what they use. That's what Scientology is. They audit you and get you to talk about like your past and your fears and like all your deepest darkest secrets, while they're like running this electrical charge through you while you're
Yeah,
holding
yeah,
the
straight up
e-meter.
trauma-induced mind
Yes,
control. Like,
with
yeah,
with
that's
with an
also a form of
electric,
struggle session. Yeah,
with
that's also a
with
form of struggle
with
session.
with like paired with an electrical charge, an EMF charge going through your body. And so yeah, so they took that, and they started in New Orleans. They were actually incorporated, legally incorporated, by like the same lawyer who was representing like Danny Ferry and Guy Bannister and Clay Shaw. His name is Tommy Baum. Like, it is crazy like how interconnected all this stuff is. But the Process Church, they ended up like going back to England. They were definitely connected in with like the Beatles scene, and then like in LA with the Manson scene. They were everywhere, and they're absolutely like an intelligence network. They're MI6, CIA. They were doing
Tavistock, definitely Tavistock. Yeah.
absolutely. And they are doing like crazy, like MK programming, like the whole thing. What they're doing, the process that they talk about, is this like splitting of the mind, right? Like they're talking about how they worship Satan and God and Lucifer and Jesus. Like they have these kind of like like you talk about the cognitive dissonance. It's like those, all of those, they say, are like the aspects of the same thing. And it's like this splitting of their views and their worship. And they would assign certain people: you're on the Jesus side, you're on the Lucifer side, and like they would have separate like rituals on each side. They would come together and like have to combine them. I mean, it's really crazy stuff. But the process is this like it's describing like breaking the mind, like the solve et coagula, like breaking and reforming the mind. And they again, like Charles Manson was in the process. Like all, like the family like was a spin-off of the process. They like uh, um Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate, like they were all part of
Yeah,
this whole
hold on.
thing.
Yeah, and let me just tie this back really quick, because this recording or whatever isn't as much about like my broader subject with tying this back to like the Roman Empire and everything. With Charles Manson, there's actually some pretty easy to prove connections, which I just went over. So like he actually went to the Nebraska boys'
Yep.
school
Yep.
for the Knights
Yep.
of Columbus,
Yep.
and whenever people cover it's like, oh well, he ran away, and they make it sound like they somehow are able to frame he ran away in a context that actually absolves the Knight of Columbus and the boys' school. But yeah, and then he was like living in the woods outside for a little bit. Like, okay, come on, there's definitely more going on there.
Well, and Boys Town is where like the Franklin scandal happened, where Larry King was trafficking children from Boys Town in Omaha to like the highest levels of the like Republican Party in the 1980s, right? Like you guys know about the Franklin scandal?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
posted about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean
Yes,
that happened
it
at
was
Boys
Gladio.
Town. It's
This is all. Yeah,
the
this is also
same
part of
place.
Operation Gladio. This is part
Totally.
of Operation Gladio. Yeah.
Totally, and it's the same exact place, that Charles Manson went through. I mean, he was there briefly, but he was there. And like Manson went to he spent like 90% of his life from age like 14 to like 25 in institutions and in prisons. And that's when he became like he was you know, like he was introduced into Scientology. He did like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of hours of Scientology auditing in prison, and you know that he was like, you know, designated as a clear, like, you know, people that go clear, like OT 7 or whatever the level is. Like that's then he got out, and you know he became like Charles Manson after he, you know, went clear as a OT 7 Scientologist in prison. Like and the craziest thing about the process still exists today, and it is, if y'all know about the best, I mean, this sounds so made up, it sounds like totally implausible, but it is the Best Friends Animal Society.
Oh
In
no, I know about this.
that is the process church of the final judgment. They have a 30,000 acre compound in Kanab, Utah, which is actually
So
the next community over to where Tyler Robinson, the supposed
no,
assassin
so
Wait, what? Hold on.
of,
What's the Animal
hold on.
Society? Let's get in that really quick. I want to know what the Animal Society
it's
is.
called Best Friends Animal Society, and it's like the biggest like animal rescue like organization in the
Oh,
country.
yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah, okay,
That is the
okay,
process church of the final judgment. If you go and look
yeah.
even on Wikipedia, it like will tell you that. It's not
So
a
I've got
joke.
I've got a friend who is an ex-Mormon who went through Project Monarch and has done some stuff. Let me tell you, but he has a theory that the plane that took off after the Charlie Kirk assassination had Charlie on it, and they went to process. That's why they turned the transponder off, and Charlie's alive, but he's on that property.
I mean, I totally believe that. It's a 38,000 acre
Yeah.
property, like in the middle of nowhere. But guess what? It's the Kanab is like the entry point, the southeast entry point to Zion National
Yep.
Park. No
Which
joke.
which also
Yeah,
which
yeah,
also that it's important to point out the Mormon context of Zion
Oh yeah.
in that realm. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Native Americans are Jews, and Utah, Salt Lake City is Jerusalem. Yeah, that's and by
And
the
there's
way, yeah, Native Americans who are also Jews have blonde hair and blue eyes.
and the Temple of Horus is in the Grand Canyon.
well, something is in the Grand Canyon. Like
Yeah,
Something's in the
no,
Grand
okay.
Canyon.
No, there was a lot. There's a rock in there that looks like a sphinx with more water erosion. It's like I
there's
think there. Yeah,
there's weird stuff going on at the Grand Canyon, but like yeah, and so yeah, Kanab is on one side of Zion, and St. George is on the other, and that's where Tyler Robinson grew up. Is in St. George, and
Saint
Bedford.
George, the Templar mascot. Templar
Yes,
mascot.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And St. George has like multiple like organizations that like host Best Friends Animal Society in that town. And I'm wondering, like, did Tyler Robinson, was he like volunteering at the Humane Society that has like a partnership with Best Friends? You know, like nobody's talking about this, but they do. If you go on their website, the St. George, Utah Humane Society is partners with Best Friends, and that's the Process Church. And you're just like, oh, wait a second, you know, like that's a point of access. You know, like I
absolutely.
mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's mind blowing. It's just like it's so hard to describe like how big this thing is. You know.
Well, yeah, okay. I just want to point out really quick, since I'm recording this, I'm gonna be clipping this maybe in like 20, 40 minute segments, but that kind of thought process that Habsburg just pointed out is exactly how you can see interplay between de facto and de jure, like
Mhm.
unofficial and official, and formal and informal. It's like I think a lot of people just aren't trained to see that, because it's not that as much people, no one's talking about this. It's that whenever people report on it, it just seems like disconnected data points. So this kind of ability to analyze information in a way that frames it along those lines I just went over is how you can pretty much not be deceived and actually have a pretty objective methodology for understanding geopolitics, and end up not having to appeal to authority in the fallacious sense, or go down these truther rabbit holes. I just wanted to point that out.
Um, I you know I don't want to like you know take over like and you know talk about this stuff. Like I know that you guys were you know on more like externalization and
Well, it's pretty
you know
irrelevant to that, even though you didn't. I mean, it's like, dude, I'd only need like 1 minute 30 seconds or something to tie it into that. I mean, it's like these cults all are
They're the same cult.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and
They
then
all are the same
Yeah.
cult.
but
It's like
you know,
it's different denominations. It's different denominations of the same religion, essentially.
but
Yeah.
again, think back to Bailey's writing in the 1920s about the creation of the ashrams and the masters that then externalized themselves. So all of these cults are just part of the masters that are part of the greater hierarchy
It's they're
externalization going
stepping
on. Yeah.
they're stepping stones to total formalization.
Right.
And once the formalization takes place, we'll have a formal world government that's going to be a synthesis of all these cults, essentially.
Well, and you talk about ashrams, and you were also talking about like car audio earlier, and like what they install like standard in cars and stuff. So
Yeah. Stereo sound.
yeah. So, but do y'all know if I said the name Martine Rothblatt, do y'all know who that is?
Mm,
Okay,
no.
we need to like talk about this person because it's the world's wealthiest, transgender individual, who invented, or is said to have invented, Sirius XM satellite radio, which is in every single car that has been manufactured since,
Well,
like,
it's Sirius the
what?
Dog Star is
Serious,
Luciferian.
totally.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
of course. So,
Luciferian. So
so Martine Rothblatt is like, the progenitor of all like the GPS stuff and the satellite radio stuff, and has a cult with ashrams up in Vermont and Quebec, in actually Magog, Quebec, which is like crazy biblical. But yeah, and they're ashrams, and it's called Terasem, which is called the trans religion, and it's literally like a religious cult based around like transhumanism and like the singularity of like merging humans with machines, and they like provide services of like creating mind files. Like you go to them and they will like create this whole like cloud mind file of who you are, so that you can like live forever in the cloud. And this is like what their religion is. It's their
Well,
cult, and they have
hold
yes,
on.
yes.
and
No, that goes
Hold
back to the
on.
news sphere I was
and
talking about. No, just back when I was saying that at the end of time and the dialectic faith, so the people who aren't the useless eaters, the people who survive the population purge, they literally become God. That's ultimately what the end project of like this rain chip thing is. They
exactly.
literally they literally think they can use technology to escape from the Gnostic prison of matter, because remember, matter is evil, spirit's good. They're completely diametrically opposed for whatever reason that they can't prove. So how they want to become God, transcend matter, and return the many to the one is use technology to literally merge all our minds into one. And you see references to this in like pop culture. And an example I keep going back to is Neon Genesis Evangelion, this anime. And by the way, like I think it was Osaka University. Osaka University has a Catalan program with a lot of like Valencian international intelligence assets, very associated with the Jesuit order. Because I'd say in a large sense, the Jesuit order is Valencian intelligence. I'd actually argue, like Francis Borgia was Ignatius Loyola's boss, and he was based in Valencia, Spain. But yeah, like this is where this whole program actually came from. It's a product of Spanish masonry, and animators that are being initiated into this program are making shows. This Neon Genesis Evangelion is an example of that. So there's something called Human Instrumentality Project, where they like merge the spear of Longinus, the spear that stabbed Christ. They merge that with the demon Lilith. Then they call it an angel, and someone could get in a robot that has like a piece of atom in it or something, and it can fuse into this magic circle that merges all souls together, and they become God collectively. Like that's pretty much what it's all about.
And they have like a
So hold on.
UN
Hold
thing in
on.
that show too, right? It's like
Yeah,
literally.
the United Nations. Yeah, the United Nations is like part of the conspiracy in that also. Yeah.
So this is a good one. I was looking up Martine Rothblatt because this is fun. So apparently she left college only after 2 years, and then on a whimsy traveled through Europe, Turkey, Iran, Kenya, and the Seychelles. And it was at a NASA tracking station in the
At the
Seychelles
Seychelles.
during
But
the summer of
guess what?
1974 that she had her epiphany to unite the world via satellite communications.
And guess what?
So, epiphany.
Where was Tucker Carlson's father the ambassador to? The
Oh, that's right.
Seychelles. Dick Carlson was the ambassador to the Seychelles. Martine Rothblatt and Tucker Carlson both grew up in San Diego, right?
Right.
And they have and Martine Rothblatt's like Terrasem, like cult centers, and Tucker Carlson's like compound in Maine are like 80 miles from each other. Like there
That's
is
funny.
some dude, there is some weird, like, I don't know. But yeah, Dick Carlson, the Seychelles Islands, there's something real crazy going on over there. And they definitely like Martine Rothblatt, like, yeah, like that's where she got like I you can't say she, it's not a she, but got like turned on to like satellites and GPS, and that's where all this stuff comes
I
from.
love how she just had
And
an epiphany where she figured out global satellite communications.
yeah,
Like that's just
just
amazing,
all
right?
on her
It's
own.
just all on her own.
Well, and her dad, and so like I don't know if you guys are into this like dentist watch about how like dentists are like involved with a lot of like mind programming and like the technology, like using like voice to skull and implants and stuff like this. But Martine Rothblatt's father was a dentist, of course. I think like probably working under the auspices of the CIA in San Diego, which is like the biggest
Well,
naval installation
yeah,
on the West
it's
Coast.
yeah. Well,
um
voice to skull is in Andre Pujar's territory, man. That's when
Totally.
he really got going.
Totally. And here's the last point about Martine Rothblatt that I think that we got to mention is that Martine Rothblatt wrote that in 2016. It's called From Transgender to Transhuman, a manifesto on
Oh,
this.
good,
So it's like
good.
literally
Oh, great.
about how like once like get past like these biological realities of gender, then like you can onboard straight into transhumanism, and that's like
Yeah,
this.
because like that whole transgender thing, it's 100% hermetic, and it's pretty much like, well, it's also Gnostic. It's pretty much like, oh yeah, your biology is part of this Gnostic prison, and once you can liberate yourself from the Gnostic prison, you can become divine. So it's like that. That's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's all part of it. Well, hermaphrodite, hermeticism. It's in the etymology also.
No, and that's the whole idea, is that like that's the onboarding to this apotheosis when we merge with technology and do actually become gods, which are like Ray Kurzweil, who is like Martine Rothblatt's best friend. I'm sure y'all know about Ray
Also,
Kurzweil.
also a
Yeah,
musician.
oh yeah, I mean he invented like all
The
these
electric keyboard.
keyboards and all, I mean
Yeah,
yeah, totally. I mean Ray Kurzweil is like a really important figure in for a lot of reasons, but he's like yeah, we're gonna merge with machines in 2045.
yeah. That's
Like
also
that's the
Stanford. That's
date.
all. That's all Stanford research stuff too. That's just CIA. So
Oh totally.
Kurzweil's
And
Stanford.
and he's the well, he's Stanford, and he's like down the road in Mountain View. He's like the head engineer at Google
Yeah.
currently.
I can't
Like
believe he's still around. To be honest with you, I'm kind of impressed.
I mean, the story about Ray Kurzweil is he takes like 100 different vitamins every day.
Yeah,
Some
good dog.
crazy like it's yeah. He's a madman. But like so, Martine Rothblatt actually made a movie in I think it was 2010 or 2012 based on Kurzweil's book called "The Singularity Is Near," which y'all probably have heard of,
I think I
and
have a copy of it somewhere.
And by the way,
and they made a
the
movie.
singularity is just Teilhard
Yeah,
Chardin's
exactly.
omega point.
Omega points
Exactly. Exactly.
for
Exactly.
secular
Or
omega points. Yeah.
Hegel's The End of History, when the dialectic all comes together and you have a
Or
happy
or
utopia. Yeah.
That's
or
it.
Vladimir Lenin's withering away. It's all the same shit.
It's
Yeah.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
actually and Terrence McKenna with it. What did he call it? The time wave zero. Like it's all the same thing, right? And but like in the movie, and it's crazy because it's like part documentary and part narrative, and it has like all these people that were like part of Epstein's circle are like the people that are either acting in it or giving the interviews. Like it's Marvin Minsky, the father of AI, who was like hardcore attached to Epstein and was down at his island like constantly. He was a professor at MIT. He's in the movie.
Always
Alan
MIT.
Alan Dershowitz is like the lawyer in the movie in the narrative part, and he's representing this android and like trying to prove to the Supreme Court that the android actually deserves to have like the same rights, the same constitutional privileges and rights as a human
Oh God,
being.
that
And
gets into
and
like
it passes the Turing test, and like
that gets
it's
into like
Alan Dershowitz.
yeah, it's so funny. That gets into like also before that, some of the pre-programming before that in the '60s was Klaatu's speech from The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Right.
Which I don't know if you guys have seen that. I'll put it in the replies. You guys have to watch this. It's terrifying, but it's a speech in the '60s from a movie that just puts it all out there.
By the way, I just want to point out the '60s has quite a bit of externalizations in terms of just showing the hierarchy's hand, and also I think it's to be referred back to in the future. But another show you guys should look into is British TV, The Prisoner. So
yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so two things related to this. So one thing I want to point out is I think it was episode 7. I might be remembering that incorrectly, but on episode 7, an AI is actually the villain of it. And so this is put out by British TV, like I said. So the show is about an MI6 agent who finds out something that's left a mystery until the end, and he quits being a spy. So MI6 sends him to this island that specializes on mind control. So each episode's about him overcoming a different variation of mind control methods to get him to give away, like, hey, what did you see that made you quit the spy force? Like that's the objective of their mind control, essentially. But there's another, like episode 2, I believe. There's a woman that's a KGB agent that's sent there, and she's like, hey, wait a second, why are you here with this British intelligence base? Aren't you the other side? And she says, there isn't another side. Yeah. It's all it's such a revelation. It's obviously a limited hangout, but there's some interesting information you can get from it.
And the island where they filmed it at, there's it's in Wales, and there is some connection with the Beatles, and I think specifically George Harrison. Either stayed there or made like a video that like there's definitely a Beatles connection with that place.
There's a Led Zeppelin connection to Bronyar.
Okay, is that the island where they filmed the Prisoner?
There's the Welsh part of it, I think.
Okay. I got to look it up, but like the Prisoner is crazy, and he's number 6, which like is definitely like a reference to Genesis, like on the 6th day that God created Adam. Like he's the man. He's number 6. Like Prisoner is a crazy show.
And obviously, it's 100% MI6 too.
Oh yeah, well, and Ian Fleming consulted on the show too.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's just a nice ribbon on top. It's obviously MI6, but I couldn't prove it until now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the guy. Oh God, what's his name? The guy who is number 6 was like the guy who actually like wrote the shows, and like he was involved in the production, and he like collaborated with Ian Fleming. Like so this guy's the MI6 in real life too.
Well, they also made
top to bottom.
I don't know if you heard of the Mass Effect game series, but Mass Effect also peddles transhumanism. It's like the best possible ending you can get in the series is when like man merges with machine. But there's the guy who the main character Commander Shepard works for. He's this human mastermind called the Elusive Man. That's like he's behind the scenes working against an intergalactic federation, and he's also working against a race from outside the galaxy called Reapers to essentially bring humanity to its next step of evolution. He's named the Elusive Man, but he looks exactly.
This is a game.
Yeah. He looks. Yeah, it's called. The Elusive Man looks exactly like the guy who played number 6. No, he like it's just look it up. It's like I don't know why that is, but when I when I first saw the show Prisoner, I'm like, wait a second, this is the Elusive Man from this game I played. And by the way,